Today, we're speaking with Professor Nelson Pedreiro, who is Vice President of the Advanced Technology Center of Lockheed Martin Space. Nelson, welcome. You are the chair of the COSPAR Committee on Industry Relations, CIR, which was set up in 2021 to advise the President of COSPAR on industry matters. The CIR now groups 18 aerospace companies worldwide, big corporations and smaller companies as well, spanning the US, North America, Europe, and Asia, and offering a breadth of expertise in several space sectors. To begin, won't you tell me a bit about yourself and how you started at Lockheed Martin?
Yeah, Jean-Claude, good morning, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be talking to you and engaged with COSPAR. So a little bit about myself. I was born in Brazil and grew up in Brazil. I was always, very passionate about aircraft and space and and so on. I can't quite pinpoint why, but that was from relatively a young age. Very interested on that. So I went to and I studied aerospace engineering and also got my master's degree in Brazil. And then I came to the US to pursue my graduate studies at Stanford University. And from there, I joined Lockheed at the research labs and had a tremendous opportunity to work in a number of different programs. A lot of those related to technology development and transitioned into space systems. And at some point in my career, I went into more of the program management side and organizational management side, and coming up to where I am today, as you indicated, that I lead our Advanced Technology Center. We're headquartered in Palo Alto, California, and we're really the innovation labs and the technology labs for Lockheed Martin Space. So that's a little bit about myself.
You've kindly accepted the proposal from the then COSPAR President Len Fisk to be the chair of CIR, but how did you find out about COSPAR in the first place?
So I can't quite recollect how I learned about COSPAR, right? I had different roles at the Advanced Technology Center and elsewhere in the company, but especially in the Technology Center, in the Advanced Technology Center, we have a whole organization that is focused on space science and has built instruments for, over 60 years. Has built over 200 instruments, scientific instruments. So even though I'm not a scientist myself, I have worked with this group relatively close. So I've always, that I can remember, I kind of always known about COSPAR, even though my direct engagement with the organization has been more recent over the past few years.
Okay, but what was your motivation then for getting involved with COSPAR, either at a personal level or through your engagement?
Right, yeah. So as I took on a broader role at the Advanced Technology Center in the labs, right, I got more engaged with the science team, and I got to understand more closely the importance and the synergy that really exists between the science community, who are really the thought leaders, thinking about what science should we be doing, right, to further human knowledge of the universe, and but also the great value that industry brings in terms of enabling some of these science missions, right, creating the instruments, creating the spacecraft, being able to operate the mission, bringing technology that perhaps were developed for very different areas. A great example is of course, James Webb Space Telescope, and my team here built the near-infrared camera. I had the opportunity to work for about a year, directly work on that project and firsthand see how developing new technologies and capabilities enable that instrument to be so successful. So when Professor Fisk talked to me and asked for my help in setting up the Committee on Industry Relations, I resonated immediately. I was honored that he thought of me, and I was eager to jump in and help as much as I could, because I see that value. I see the tremendous value COSPAR brings into bringing this synergy, bringing the international space research community together.
Okay, so continuing on this cooperation, then at the level of your company, precisely Lockheed Martin Space, what would you say the highlights of the collaboration between LM Space and COSPAR were last year in 2022?
I think last year was definitely the assembly in Athens. The CIR hasn't existed, the Community and Industry Relations, right, hasn't really existed for that long. We really kicked it off in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic, which doesn't help. But in 2022 we had the opportunity to participate, and COSPAR was really tremendous. The Bureau and Glenn Fisk, and of course yourself and your whole team there, in terms of giving us an opportunity because we came up with a number of ideas and a number of recommendations. We call that our strategic plan recommendations to increase engagement between COSPAR and industry. And a number of those recommendations, it's a long list. I won't recall everything on top of my head, but some of the recommendations was really to have industry be more engaged on the assembly, which is really the largest event that COSPAR put together. And we had a number of activities there. So bringing that knowledge more to the broader community, the membership of COSPAR. There were a number of panels and sessions that the Community and Industry Relations helped organized. They were very successful. The one that jumps to mind to me was because the timing was so perfect, right? James Webb had just released its first image. It was a near-cam image. So we proposed to do a panel on the James Webb Space Telescope, and we had it was tremendous that Dr. Thomas Verbuchen was able to participate, as well as industry members from Northrop Grumman, from my own team, that participated on that. There's a whole new panel that is led by industry. That is the panel on innovative solutions. We inaugurated that with a technical session in 2022 during the assembly. There was a social event that we organized from the industry side for our members. There was also, in terms of diversity and inclusion, companies have been, over the years, have really put a lot of focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion, and we're bringing that experience to help COSPAR. COSPAR also has done tremendous work in that area, but really to bring that to a whole new level. And so we also had an event that was very well attended with, executive leadership from organizations across the world, including NASA and industry also sharing those thoughts. So bringing attention to those topics, right? Panel on innovative solutions, diversity and inclusion, panels on specific topics that are of interest to the scientific community, and it primarily highlight that benefits of this collaboration. We did a lot of that in 2022. I would call that our high point for 2022.
Okay, thank you. You were one key person, as we already mentioned, who helped set up the new COSPAR CIR. You started to reply, of course, to these things in the last minute, but if you were to name two things that you and the CIR have brought to COSPAR over the past couple of years, what would those be?
I think there are two important items that are really on top of my mind because we're working, you know that because we're working with you on that right now, and we're making some good progress. One of them is one of our recommendations was for COSPAR to create a development board that would really generate resources for COSPAR to be able to execute on a number of the other recommendations we gave in a more robust manner. You heard me say this before, Jean-Claude, but I'm very impressed and well impressed with how effective the COSPAR executive function, management function through the Bureau, through your organization, right, as the director. It's a very lean organization, but I really believe, and the CIR, the Community and Industry Relations, our membership believe, and that's why we brought the recommendation that you can really take that to a whole different level. So that's one of the items. The second one is I was very pleased when Pascal and you and the Bureau accepted our recommendation to increase and accept higher industry participation in the commissions and panels. You connected me to a number of the leaders of those commissions and panels, and we're making quite a bit of progress. In fact, earlier this week, we had our Community and Industry Relations meeting for the first quarter of 2023, and we were looking at the status and how we're doing on that. We actually made quite a bit of progress there. There's more room to go, but we made quite a bit of progress. And in my mind, these are really the two of the key elements where it's going to make these collaboration, this strategic engagement between industry and COSPAR, it's really going to make it a institutionalized as part of how COSPAR does business, right?
I was going to ask you what do you believe COSPAR, conversely, had brought the CIR and its members so far, but of course you started to respond to that. But is there anything else you want to highlight in this regard?
I think through the mission, right, the fundamental mission of COSPAR, right, which is to bring together the community that drives forward and is interested in space research. That mission alone is of great value and interest to industry. We have a very strong value proposition. Every company we approached and so on, we grew you were there from day one. We grew this year from, a handful of companies. Now we have 18 companies that participate that are part of the CIR. We're looking into actually increasing that so that the CIR membership reflects better the international nature of COSPAR. We already made progress in that area. We're going to make more progress. So I think that's number one. The number two is really it's been very, COSPAR has really taken this industry engagement very seriously. And that has made our job easier, right? So even if I look at simple things like one of our recommendations that, COSPAR one of our recommendations that COSPAR to increase their presence on social media. Well, COSPAR not only accepted that, your team implemented that right away through, now we have a more vibrant LinkedIn presence for COSPAR, which is really where most members of industry spend most of their time in terms of, work-related social media. So that's one. We recommended creating an industry corner at the COSPAR website, and you immediately, even with a very small staff, put resources and put that in place. We're very pleased, we're on a cadence now. We're putting some very interesting articles on those, and we're getting visibility. COSPAR is promoting those through the social media to get visibility on those.
Okay, this is very useful. Thank you. Well, to wrap up the interview, what do you think lies ahead in 2023 and beyond? The CIR, as you mentioned, has defined its strategic and development plan for the coming years. The plan is ambitious, very ambitious. So,
yes.
In a nutshell, what's your vision for CIR?
So my vision is as follows. It is broader than that, right? My vision is that when we look down, maybe further out, 2-3 years from now, that these recommendations we made as part of the strategic plan, they are not only implemented, but that they have really become institutionalized as part of how COSPAR does business. So that's my longer term vision. For this year, more specifically to your question, we're looking for a successful symposium in Singapore. This year has organized the panel on innovative solutions that I mentioned to you, led by Dr. Eric Smith, who is part of my team, where last year he had one technical session. I think he's now up to 3 or 4 technical sessions, 25 technical papers with a much larger number of submittals. They had to triage those and select those. So I'm looking for a number of successful activities on the symposium itself this year. We're also holding another equity, diversity, and inclusion. There are many events related to that. So strong participation there. The 2 initiatives that we are pushing very hard now, we're standing up the development board. We're helping COSPAR do that. I really want to see that in firm footing this year. So with your help, Jean-Claude, to increase industry participation on panels and commissions. But as I also mentioned, we have some way to go. We're making very good progress on that. I want to see that in a very solid footing also. Those were the 2 that so the symposium and these other 2 strategic engagements that I described for this year.
Well, this has been very useful. Thank you very much, Nelson. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jean-Claude.